guys, it's Faith and Fame with AV. I'm excited to be back with one of my favorite Houston's own Chicago native and inspiration artist who's been giving us hits after hits after hits. And he's back with a brand new project entitled Still, which is a single we're playing here on the People Station Majic 102.1 and of course on our Praise 102.1 HD2. He is the one and only Courtney Wilson. Good morning, my brother.
Good morning, AV, man. How you doing?
Man, I am blessed, excited to have this opportunity to talk with you again. Let me say this first as we get started. How's the family doing? Because, you know, we're in the midst of dealing with this pandemic, so I know we've all had to make adjustments.
Yeah, man, I've joked with people, we good enough, you know, when people ask, we're good enough. So we've been healthy and whole. My kids, you know, they're off to college.
And wow, your kids off in college?
Yeah, my daughter's in the second half of her junior year over at Cornell, and my son he's quarantine. But I was looking at him like, man, I think it's time for you to get out, you know, and go somewhere and just, you know, kind of spread your wings and mature. So we dropped him off in LA a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, what you say, it's time to get out and spread. You know what, I was thinking about this morning as I was getting ready for the conversation with you. I thought about the time that you came and we were doing the inspiration show and you came on and you talked about a letter that you wrote to your son. And I was like, to hear how you talk to him in the letter about purpose and destiny and how proud of him you were and still are, you know, that resonated to me that day. And I was thinking, man, especially as African-American men, it's something that we should do, or as men, period, fathers, period, is something we should do. And just talk about why that moment was just so valuable for you and important for you to do it.
Well, I agree. I just think we got to be intentional about undergirding our children with the knowledge of their worth, the knowledge of their potential, and their potency, their ability to take on a task and finish it well, you know, because I think we, you know, especially children of color, Black children, we are inundated with messages that try to defeat us and try to slowly over time make us pay for things that are not necessarily going to yield a return long term for us. It just kind of makes us look like we're doing all right. And so I think we have to combat that by being intentional about saying things that sometimes you think they take for granted. But you got to make sure they know where you stand with them, where God stands with them, and the power of planting a seed of faith and nurturing it into a harvest.
When you talk about nurturing, especially when we look at your career in the gospel music industry and just the career as a whole, because I think you're one of the singers who transcends beyond just being known as an inspiration artist. You're the way that you speak, you write, it speaks to the nation. And so people don't really have an understanding or really know who Courtney Wilson is. How would you describe the purpose and the gifts and the talents that God has given to you and even your heart?
I think it's still evolving, to be honest. I know one thing I'm real clear on is that I'm an encourager. You know, I try to get people to lean into what I'm saying long enough for them to, one, feel it, you know, feel it, be real about yourself and your circumstance, and then feel empowered to move forward, one step, one breath at a time. So that's who I'm about. That's who I am. It's born out of the need to do it for myself and the appreciation of the people in my life that have done it for me along the way. And so that's what I'm trying to share with the world.
Excited about this 5th project, and I'm like, man, number 5. It's like, wow, I remember number 1.
Man, I felt the same way. It seems like the time flew, and you know, you and I go way back, so you know just some of the prices that were paid in the day. Dude, I still remember to this day that New Year's Eve.
I know.
Sitting over at the bridge, and I was like, man, what is this?
Yeah, like said, what is going on?
You spoke to me like a seasoned preacher about, you know, just keeping your head up, and I was like, man, I can't believe that's all he got to say. It sounds like because I'm going through, but what you said was true. You know
Right.
what I mean? And that's the reason why we continue to gather. That's why we listen to
Yeah.
this music, because there are true things
Mm-hmm.
that you, again, can take for granted until you need them the most. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to remember and be able to pull from these things as anchors in the storm.
Yeah, well, it goes back to what you said. Part of the purpose and the makeup of me being in ministry, being a teacher, I'm an encourager.
Yes, sir.
So, I've always, it's amazing how I think I say, God, you know how to set people up, and God will set you by somebody who's always going through. It's like always somebody who's dealing with something to give a word of encouragement to keep, because I could sit next to you and have watched and observed you, and I knew, like everybody else who's ever seen you sing, it's like, oh man, he's destined for greatness, and he's destined to make an impact in this industry. What had to happen was the time had to catch up with you.
Yeah.
Time had to catch up with your purpose. The season had to be, made readily available for what you had to bring to the table. At that moment, it wasn't ready for it. But as we saw, you took off.
And you
Yeah.
have to endure it.
Right.
Because you can sabotage it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They say what God has for you is for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta really believe it every step of the way. You gotta believe it even when you don't feel it. You gotta believe it even when it seems like it's at war with your ego.
Right.
It's making your pride rise up. You gotta find a way to humble yourself in the middle of it and really trust the instruction you've been given, the voices of the angels that the Lord sends your way.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? And then
Yes,
just
sir.
keep walking it out to the glory of God unto the Lord.
And then what faith is, I mean, we walk by faith. So you walk into what God has called you to. And one of the things that I love is the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. So you were iron, we just sharpening each other. And the reason we could encourage each other is because we've gone through. So I know how it feels to be waiting on something. And it's like, I know I'm gifted for it, called for it. I know I've dreamed about it. I see the success. I've saw this in my spirit and in my imagination. I saw myself doing this, but I'm just waiting for this set fixed moment to come to pass. And from that moment on, man, and I'm sure God sent so many other people to encourage your life, to see how God has blessed you to this point that you've come to this 5th project still. And I love it. Talk about this project, and especially the song Still, because I don't care where we are in our life, Brian, we got to get to a point to where we be still.
Yes, sir. It's my 5th project. It's probably the hardest one I've had to do because of the logistics around the quarantine. And then what happened when we witnessed George Floyd get murdered.
Yeah.
Those circumstances coalesced and made it difficult, at least for me, to focus, and get back to one in terms of what should I be doing in this moment. And that's what really this entire project is about. It's an invitation to focus and remember that you can be still and know that God is still God regardless of circumstance. But there's some things that we still can lean on as anchors. And what's going on? How you doing? She came in and disrupted the whole thing.
I know, she just got you. It was like he was in a deep moment, and she said, I'm going to slide in. She resonated with you. But go ahead.
There's some things that we still can believe and hold on to and trust, and especially the instruction that we get from the Lord in terms of, well, this is how you're going to get through. This is how you're going to make it. This is how these are the 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread that you need to put in my hand and trust that it's going to turn into a miracle. But there are also some things that we still have to reckon with. That's one of the reasons I wanted to put out Inner City Blues with the project, because this classic that Marvin Gaye wrote over 50 years ago still resonates today. Those lyrics did not have to be changed to be relevant to the moment.
Wow.
And so while we know that we can be still and know that God is still God, while we know that the things that our grandmothers nursed us on while we were in church on Sunday morning are still true, it does not mean that we're in denial about what we see around us. We see the mountain. We just believe we can speak to it, and we can act on what we can act in ways that can move that mountain, and we can see the Lord.
I know you also did a Ain't No Need to Worry from the Winans, which is another classic, as you alluded to, not only the Inner City Blues from Marvin Gaye. It seems like this project, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there is really a social connection with this.
No
Like you
question.
said, yeah, you know, we went through and we experienced here in the city with the George Floyd situation and so many things happening across the country now outside of the pandemic. But it seems like there's a social connection with it. Talk about the importance of that, because music has to be relevant.
No question. In fact, to be frank, you know, worth fighting for,
Mm-hmm.
a great work. They all have social connections for me. That I've never been able to separate the two. Like when you're
Okay.
ministering to a community, you have to be able to look at the needs of the community, what the community is going through, what they're suffering from, what does introduce despair into a situation, and how do you combat it. Um, it still is no different. You know, I may have been a little more intentional about saying some things on the record, just because, again, I think we need to be intentional about identifying what the issues are, uh, and then intentional about pointing to where the hope is. And
Right.
so that's if you hear that on the record, I'm glad, because that's what it's about. There's one song I want to point it out to.
Okay.
There's a song called "Waiting" that we worked on with Eric Roberson, independent
Oh
R&B
yeah.
and soul artist, man,
Yeah.
one of my favorite people. We were in UT together with Fred Hammond.
Right.
Uh, and I like that this song is present on the record because it, you know, when I say you point back to the hope resides in you too. You have a responsibility to act. Sometimes we're waiting on like a breakthrough that starts with us and the decision we make to keep planting for the future that we want to see and recognizing it. And so, still is about all of that. It's about God's intervention, it's about our enemies' attacks, and then it's about how we respond. What
Right.
do we do?
And speaking of that, especially in the midst of us going through, and we know we didn't ask for the pandemic, but it was a part of what was destined for this day and time. You talked about operating in hope. How do we maximize a moment like this that we don't become fearful, isolated, in the sense that we're not doing anything that has to speak to the purpose of us? Because so many people found themselves in a financial bind, but at the same time, a lot of people discovered an entrepreneurship in them that they didn't
Absolutely.
realize. You know, it's almost like, you remember in the Bible when the famine was there and Elijah told the widow woman, you know, go sell what you have. What do you have in your house? And it's like God has taken us back to our homes to see what do you have in your house that you've probably been overlooking for so long that you have not put to use. And so, Brian, how do we keep hope in despair? Is what I guess
Man,
what I'm asking. Yeah.
I think you just said it. I think you got to revisit what's right around you. What has been obscured from your vision in terms of its value and worth, and taking it to the master's hand. Like I'm gonna go back to them 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread
Okay.
that young man had that day on the mountain. You know, we talk about this story. That man wasn't coming out there to feed 5,000. He was coming
No.
out there with lunch. He had lunch
Yes,
in
sir.
his hand, right?
Yes, sir.
And I imagine when they say, "Hey, man, we need this." No, you taking my lunch. No, we
Right.
making a miracle today. But
Ooh.
I need you to trust it in the master's hands. And
Yes,
I
sir.
think this is an invitation for many of us to do that. I remember, you know, when I was on this journey, the days when, dude, my money was funny every step of the way.
Yes, sir.
Now, one size does not fit all, but I can just tell you one of the things that got me through was saying yes to giving what I had in my hand to help. So trusting that what I had was enough to help, and then trusting that it would be okay, that something will work out. And when I say help, you know, I was going to the church, but you see, there are places for you to help all around you.
Right.
Meet
Right.
the need around you. And I think that's where you're going to find the Lord. And that's His grace is sufficient.
Yeah.
If you start extending grace and bringing grace to certain situations, you'll see grace abound. I believe that.
Yeah.
That's one way.
We were
Go ahead.
we were having a conversation yesterday, and just the old phrase that everybody says, what you make happen for others, God will make happen for you. And I was just thinking about what you said. Two important things you just said: giving and then serving.
Yes,
Because
sir. Yes,
sometimes
sir.
we can get into this selfish mode, or because we're sad, or because of difficulties and the things that have happened around us, that we forget the two basic things in life that when we operate in love, is about giving and serving.
Man, every breakthrough, I'm trying to think. Every breakthrough that I've had, I'm talking about them breakthroughs with people calling and like, man, how did that happen? How do you do that?
Yeah.
It's tied to me meeting a need. It wasn't tied to like some, leveraging something. It was tied to me meeting a need that I didn't think was as valuable as it was valuable enough to matter all the time.
Yeah.
But it ended up turning into a breakthrough later that literally would cause me to be overwhelmed with how much favor and grace I was being shown. Man. That's the way through. Yeah. Say yes with what you have.
Yeah. But you gotta be still to hear that though.
You sound like a preacher. You sound like you're setting it up, baby.
Yeah, you gotta be. I don't know, but I mean, like you said, you're relevant. You're in time. You're socially connected. You're inspiring, and God is saying to all of us, still.
But let me circle back because this is why I wanted to start with that song. It's the title track. The first line of that song, admittedly, I could be anxious at times as I consider the challenges I have to face. It's a confession, you know? And I think the Bible is clear on this. You probably could tell me better. Those anxieties, those cares of life, those worries are what choke out a good seed. Like,
yeah, man,
you're too anxious to let it take root. And you have to find a way to quiet that noise, to quiet those things that are distracting you from being consistent in your implementation of whatever God has called you to.
Yeah.
You gotta find a way to do that. Because what God has called you to is meant to meet a need.
Woo. Say that again, bro.
What God has called you to.
Yes, sir.
Is meant to meet a need. Need.
Yes, sir. As a preacher. Pastor Brian Courtney Wilson. Yes, sir. Amen. Yeah, because I remember, I think might have been Creflo Dollar who said, worrying is the negative form of worship. Yeah. It's worship in reverse. And so when you get into those anxious moments, because you start to replay or you start to visualize in your mind what's going to happen when you don't have the mindset to know what's going to happen. So you start anticipating an end result that may not even happen. So worrying sets you into this anxious moment because you're anticipating something that's probably not even going to happen, that God has not destined for your life, where he says if you take the word, as you said, and hold on to it and then expect God's end result, he says you speak that into the atmosphere and then that'll come to pass. But we just stay in this anxiety because we're anticipating what we think is going to happen and then remember what Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow, because worrying has that anticipation. Well, tomorrow is going to be like this. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't even know what the next minute is going to bring.
That's it.
You know,
I believe our enemy wants us stuck there.
Yeah.
Questioning every step.
Yeah.
Questioning our potency in any situation. Questioning the potency of our God in any situation, and the omnipotence. And what's the word for all knowing? What's that word?
Oh, oh Jesus, come on back to me. I'm omnipotent, omnipresent,
that's all powerful.
Omnipotent. Yeah, omnipotent is all knowing.
I'll take it. And what I'm saying is, he's moving pieces on the board that we can't even see the whole board. We just got to trust that, he's the Alpha and Omega in every given situation. And our enemy wants us to think, no, you worshiping a fable. You worshiping an elixir, a drug that's supposed to keep you. And you got to fight that off. And that's the importance of the gathering. That's the importance of continuing to read your word. That's the importance of what you said, like before, iron sharpening iron. That's the importance of showing up though, with your little bit, your 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, and then seeing how over time it manifests into the manifestation of the miraculous. You got to show up and see it.
Yeah. Got to show up, man. You showed up in this fifth project. Still is the name of the brand new project from Brian Courtney Wilson. I admonish everybody, encourage you to make sure that you add this as part of your library, because it's going to bless your life from track one all the way to the end. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna ask too. So the industry is streaming now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has like Apple Music and Spotify
Right.
on their phones. If you really want to support this music, you have to sign up for these streaming services. I think it's like $10 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to be intentional about adding the artists that you want to see.
Yeah, and add the entire project. Don't sometimes people like to stream singles. Add every song, not just one. Go ahead.
And if you don't do that, then you will be programmed.
Yeah.
Because there are algorithms that run these streaming services, and then they'll tell you, okay, this is what you want to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think more than ever now, we need to be intentional about what we take in, on a regular basis, what we support, what we invest in, and then what we say no to as well. And so I just want to invite everybody to be intentional about their support in regards to this project and every project that they and artists that they want to see continue to make this music, because that's the only way.
Yeah, man. And talk about adjusting, especially in this time, because we've seen when we first started, it was all about CDs. We travel across the country, man. We got suitcases with us, boxes. We're selling CDs everywhere we go. And like you said, now, the emphasis is on streaming. I mean, from our cars to our homes, people are downloading, streaming music. But you had to make a change. You had to make a shift in staying current with the technology as well as the music. So I guess talk about the importance of bridging that gap between performance and business, because we have to be educated in both.
Well, I always say information, proximity to information, and then resources are the way to keep moving forward. And you got to be intentional about getting in proximity to the people that have the information and the resources that you need. And so it's very important. It's not enough to just be talented. It's not enough to even have content. You have to have the resources to distribute that content so you can get a return on it, so you can do it again. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
And you also have to be fluid, because the information that was relevant today changes sometimes with the norms of the business and the criteria for what's successful in this business. So you got to stay fluid, and you can't get stuck in one way of doing things.
Yeah, man, Brian, I've seen a lot of artists wear their emotions on their sleeve publicly. You going through a lot of, the way social media, they express themselves, the frustration of the industry. What some have even expressed themselves, the frustration of their labels. I've seen guys complain about everything, but I've never seen you do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen you go, publicly criticizing whether it's labels, the industry, other artists. You've never done that. Why is that?
Well, one, I always allow for the possibility that I don't have all the information.
Okay.
In terms of my situation. So I might be in a situation that's frustrating to me, but it's because I don't understand where I'm at in the grand scheme of things. And so before I do something that could limit my ability to get the information I need, I just try to sit back, breathe, and figure out, okay, what can I do to better this for myself? What's within my sphere of influence right now to get this done? Two, most people following me don't know anything about the industry, nor do they care. They just they want to hear your music. They followed you because they want you to minister to them, and they want you to help meet the need that they have to get at what's in their heart, to deal with whatever pain they're dealing with, oh my goodness. You know how many people listening to me would take my hand, any given frustrated day, and be like, oh my goodness, this is you know what I'm saying? And so it's not, I don't see it as my right to introduce that into their lives. It's just not relevant to my ministry in that regard. Now, that's not to discount anybody else that does that. Because if you feel like that's what you need to do, to move forward. I've seen that move people forward, actually doing that. So I just don't. It's not. It hasn't been conducive to me. It hasn't been something I felt like, man, that's gonna help me. I feel like the Lord. Ooh, I don't know if I'm ready to say how to say B because I'm just kind of I'm thinking of. I feel like the Lord is gonna keep moving it forward. I got
Right.
to keep playing. I got to stay focused on what I'm supposed to be producing and doing, and getting my heart right and cleansing my heart to be ready to produce. And then the Lord really got to start moving some things too, and putting people in place to do the right thing.
Right.
I've seen people who were the right people at one time get moved out the way, and then some people from like you like, yo, what's
from?
going on?
Yeah.
You know, everything changing. And so
Yes.
it's like there's never gonna ever be a perfect situation. Never. I haven't seen that yet. It's just there's situations, they're good, they're bad. You want to minimize the bad, you want to maximize the good every time.
Yeah.
Whether you, I know I'm rambling now.
No,
Whether
you're good.
you in the music business, you trying to tend to your yard, same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. It's always gonna be a battle because we see people in this time and age, everybody has a political pulpit, or everybody has a social pulpit, or everybody has a pulpit just to speak out on every issue. A lot of times, I just think, I look at you and I always think of a man who's humble. At the same time, you exercise great wisdom on every situation. Not saying that you just live in a bubble, as you said, you don't get frustrated, because we all do. Not saying that you don't want to speak out on certain situations, because we all want to have a commentary. But to have the boundary to know that you can't get into every battle. I think we deal with the social media aspect today. We have so many people that want to be vocal on every situation. And sometimes I think we have to exercise caution and know some battles we don't need to get into, because is it really worth probably the attention that you will get from it?
Yeah, you always got to ask yourself, well, what's your best weapon, right?
Yeah.
Why do we even know you? What's on your business card? And if we know you because you make great music, why do you want to do something to jeopardize your ability to keep making great music?
Yeah.
Keep making the great music. Now, that's not to say that you don't get involved in the things that speak to you and speak to your heart, but you still got to remember what I think what's on your business card, and is your greatest weapon, is the thing we need the most, and that's this link that you have to the divine, to introduce that into the situation and help people to move forward too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I like that line. Yeah.
And I think our enemy always wants us to discount the power of our greatest weapon.
Right.
And distract us into using something that's not going to be as effective.
Man, yeah, them distractions. Why do we even know you? I like that. I'm gonna have to use that. I got to keep that in the pocket. Yeah. Why do we even know you? Yeah.
But can I say something else though?
Go ahead.
That doesn't mean like sometimes you do have to speak. I think you do have to be involved in ways that are intentional. But what's the verse? You can help me better. What is it? Wise as a serpent.
Yeah. Being wise as a serpent and humble as a dove. Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Use some wisdom, because we in a long game, and it's a chess match. It's not checkers. It's a chess match.
You're preaching, man. You got your own pool.
Tune me up.
Yeah, I wish I had. I need to carry it. I need to do like some of these other people and carry the little organ with me. I probably could download it on my phone, carry the closing too. Yeah. Listen, man, this has been fantastic. But before I go, I would, it wouldn't be wise of me to not allow you to speak to the process when it comes to writing music, because I know when you go into a project, there's a conversation that happens. You're like the old school artist to me. When we sit down at the table, we're gonna go into this with prayer. We're going into this with wisdom. We're not just sitting down writing some feel-good lyrics today because it's just something I want to do. But talk about the process and why that's important for you, and especially speaking to as we always, to up and coming artists who aspire to do exactly what you do?
I think you collect these conversations, these sharpening iron uh, conversations over time. Uh, that's part of the process. So
Mm-hmm.
I've written songs where they started with a conversation from 2 years ago, and
Wow.
then time and attrition just led me to like, okay, now that's why God allowed me to be a part of that moment years ago. That's how Worth Fighting For was written over
Oh,
lunch.
wow.
We were talking about something. Uh, and so the process for me is kind of going through my notes, so to speak, around
Mm-hmm.
the conversations, and then what's been on my mind, what I think uh, would matter to the community that trusts me enough to lean into what I'm saying, um, and quieting myself enough to hear it, and really focus on what matters. And then in the interim, staying strong enough to be ready when it comes.
Yeah.
Continuing to work on your craft in terms of making sure your voice is in the space where it needs to be, um, that you're communicating as clearly as possible, because that's what these songs are. They're communication.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make that as clear as possible. Um, Staying connected to people who can help you enhance what you're doing. You know, uh, my music is built with teams.
Yeah.
So and so that's tied to relationship, and that's
Right.
tied to how you do business. Can
Mm-hmm.
we trust you to do good business? You
Yeah.
know, is the vibe gonna be right? And all that's
Gotta be.
built up over time. And so that's all part of the process to me.
I love it, man. And in sports, when you talk about the process and relationship and all this, being in this pandemic, especially being a married man, how do you keep the date life spicy in the midst of a pandemic, man? What do? You gotta help your brothers out, man.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I just one, you got to mellow out. I think dude, these are anxious times,
Yeah.
and if you're not intentional about calming the storm in your house and in your life, then you'll be ramped up and you won't even know it. Because can we be frank?
Yeah, please.
Our media is intentional about making us anxious
Mm-hmm.
because they leverage that for our eyes. Like they're intentional about making us tune in. They literally put headlines up to make it seem like it's provocative, like you got to
Right.
tune in or you're going to miss something. And so the media is very intentional about ramping up fear and anxiety and this feeling that I don't have the information I need to move forward with my life. And in terms of the romantic relationship or any relationship, I think you got to be intentional about one, calming that for yourself and then for the people around you, and just focus on the things you love. Focus on laughing a lot. Like we laugh a
Yeah.
lot at my house. We
Yeah.
laugh a lot at ourselves at our house. We uh I'm trying to teach I like watching television shows. My wife, she's not big on it, but she's starting. I
I
see
know.
her trying to watch a few
Yeah.
shows with me, what I'm
I
saying,
know.
get down with me on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's part of it too. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna extend myself a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more to show that I care. And I
Yeah.
think, but that all starts with quieting the noise and the anxiety long enough to even see it, that's
Mm-hmm.
gonna matter.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of people too. You'll hear them say, "I don't watch television." I'll be like, "Man, we grew up on television. There's just certain
Right.
shows that
Yeah.
I just love to watch." I know the new generation, it's TikTok and all this other stuff, but it's like it's still a form of television that you just watching people entertain on these new social media outlets. But for me, it's like I don't think going. I'm not gonna get in trouble with God for watching Good Times or Martin.
Right. Oh, you know what? And that's the other thing I was gonna say too. In a relationship, I think you got to be generous with the fact that some people don't see it like you. Like
Mm-hmm.
just because you think that's right, just because it feels good to you, does not mean that the person you're with is gonna feel the same way.
Yeah,
So it's not necessarily like, that's not the right person. They just see it different.
they
You
say
know what I
different.
mean? They
Mm-hmm.
just see it different, and I think there's something to be said for finding some common ground in that regard. Like,
Yeah,
okay, so what can we be on the same page about?
right.
Um, and that's it. I mean, I've been married. Stacey, what we celebrate this year?
See, that's like a good wife. Keep up, she knows.
20 years, huh?
20?
We on year 21. Year 21.
Woo, y'all grown, man.
Man, we grown for real.
Yeah,
We
you
grown for real. And when I look back on it, I guess one of the things that has kept us, she ain't gonna say this about me, but we didn't take it too serious. Like, you know, it was serious for sure, but we kept it moving. Like, we didn't hold on to grudges. If somebody was mad, you know, I don't think we've ever intentionally tried to hurt each other because we felt like we were hurt in the situation. She has thoroughly trained me to take the trash out on Mondays and Thursdays. And then even when she started fussing at me, I'm not tripping. Like, okay,
yeah,
I'll take it out. Even when she tell me like 11 p.m.,
yeah.
take it. I'm like, child, you know, you got to take it out. You know,
yeah. You gotta have it out by 11. You gotta.
But those little things over time, you start to realize the stuff that's not that big a deal to you.
Yeah.
Can be a big deal to your spouse, and you manifest in love for your spouse by just taking care of that stuff.
Yeah, just go ahead, just take it out.
Just do it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, just take it out. Yeah. Now take us back to the first day you met her.
Church. We was at church.
Hallelujah, you spiritual boy.
And she showed me grace. She said my game was whack. She said my she
had to show you how to approach her. Huh? Let me help you.
I'm not telling the whole world. She said I gave her a card that said something. I'm not even gonna tell her what the card said. I don't even know why. First of all, I don't believe that I did that. I believe that somebody else did that. But bottom line is, I know she heard from the Lord on it. She literally said she had a dream about me.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And it was just it was a connection, you know.
Yeah.
I remember those first times we were dating. I just felt a connection. But what has kept us over the years is trust.
Yeah.
You know? That's what's kept us.
Yeah. Yeah. A connection and build it off trust.
Yep.
And understanding purpose. And they say allowing yourself to grow. Because, you know, people always, Brian, they have this mystical idea that, as you said earlier, every day is not going to be perfect. The people think this thing about marriage is going to be, you know, this Cinderella scene that they dreamed of as they were younger. It's going to be this perfect, you know, Cosby Show marriage. Everything's going to be beautiful every day. But it's like it's called comedy, situational comedy for a reason, because there are situations that they deal with. But in real life, we really deal with situations.
Yeah, man. Just my ministry journey, man, that was a load on my family. That was a load on my wife in particular, when she was like, what are you doing? You know, why are you giving up the company car and a quarterly bonus?
Yeah.
To do what? To work
yes, sir.
And
looking for security.
I'm not saying that, you know.
Yeah.
But again, we never did anything in the middle of that to betray the trust. You know what I mean? To make it difficult to be faithful. Because that faith is about believing without seeing. Like believing, okay, this is going to matter today, 20 years from now, without seeing what the 20 years is going to be. You follow what I'm saying? Like, you got to believe it like that. But it's hard to believe it if somebody betrays the trust in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I put that at risk when I told her what I was doing. She was like, no, that's not my vision.
Right, yeah. What are you doing? But you put, like you said, you're putting the whole family at risk. But there are people, think about it, and you know, God definitely wants us to continue our conversation. But there are people who are facing that right now. That decision that says, okay, I've been working, I got the security, I got the insurance, you know, I got the quarterly bonuses that are coming my way, but I feel God is moving me over here. I feel I need to make a change here. But you got a spouse and some kids, and everybody has to get on the same accord. Now, they may not understand, but how do you move forward in that moment? Because you had to take a big leap.
I love that question. In fact, I'm going to spot a name I think you should reach out to speak to it too. And that's Rashonda Tate Billingsley.
Yeah, I know her.
Transitioning career. And she, you know, she worked in media for 20 years. We talked to her on this show I've been doing, Breathe Again. Anyway, I would really challenge people to make a plan. You know, don't just go with your gut, but really try to outline a plan. Even if the plan is not perfect, don't just try to dominate the conversation with, okay, the Lord told me.
Yeah, yeah.
This is what my gut is saying. I just feel it, you know?
Yeah.
Or you feeling it and you, because you don't have the full buy-in yet, you haven't moved. So now you're frustrated in the relationship. Still have not tried to come up with a plan. You still have not tried to get some proximity to information that you need to move forward.
Number one.
Resource that you need to move forward.
Yeah.
Or how to get it. And so that would be what I would challenge people with. And I'm saying this from experience. I did not do that necessarily as well as I wish I had.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's not to say you shouldn't transition. That's why I want you to
right.
talk to Deshonda if you get a chance. I think she really speaks to transition. She's had a few in her life, but it all comes back to planning. You know, whether that plan is perfect or not, at least you're showing some faith just by starting to put the plan together.
Yeah, I believe it. You know, we got to live by vision, got to live by plan. You mean, if you, what's the old saying? If you don't plan, you plan to fail.
You plan to fail.
Yeah.
And it helps other people help you. Like if you, okay, I've outlined my plan, and because I believe the Lord will send resources through people. If people can see where, okay, I can help you enhance your plan.
Right.
Because you can communicate what your plan is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That helps you to get access to resource.
Yeah. I mean, go back to the original intent of the garden. I mean, God gave him a plan before he gave him a garden, so that way he can tell you what you need to do in this garden. But there's a plan here. And you know, he gave him a plan, a garden, and then a wife. So when you bring her in here, you can work the plan. We were having a conversation just the other day, and there were some people who were married, one married to a minister, one was just working in the church. Both of them were divorced because they said they felt isolated. You know, the husband had a role, but they didn't have one. They didn't feel like they were involved. It was just I needed to look like, I was told I just needed to look like a statue, like a model. But your wife is frustrated. Your wife is the wife. Yeah, the wife is frustrated because they're mates. The husbands told them that. But they were frustrated because they were not involved. Like you said, when you get ready to make this transition, if you don't have this conversation with your family, and then they need to see how they're going to be involved with you in this journey. Because why would they buy into something if it's just all about you doing it and we don't have a role in it nowhere?
You know, man, that's interesting. I have another colleague, good friend, mentor, he been in this years, man. That says sometimes it's important, like God gave you a vision, but it's not necessarily your spouse's vision. And so they have to be intentional about finding out, well, what did God say to them too? Because you kind of get swept up in somebody else's dream. Ooh, that's complicated. I don't know if we can finish that today.
Yeah, my thing is, and it'd definitely be a conversation that we have to come back to, because I'm saying if the person is supposed to be a helpmate, what are they helping you doing?
Okay, I love this. I'm gonna talk about my situation.
Okay. Right?
So my wife let me tell you what she helped us do. She helped us keep the house going. Right. So she helped when you see my kids and they like, you know, doing good and proud of them, it's because they were nurtured and raised. And there were gaps that she was filling in that I wasn't there for, because I'm working on God's vision for my life and our family. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's so many different ways where you could contribute to a family, and you shouldn't discount the fact that she wasn't on the road all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Or she's not there running the first lady's tea for you. You know what I'm saying? That's not, that may not be what she holding down a foundation.
Yes, sir.
So you So you don't play yourself,
Yeah.
because your first ministry was to your home in the first place. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So I think that's a longer conversation.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. But it is, because you got to be involved one way or another, like you said, to be able to identify the role that you have to play in order for me to go and do what I need to do. If
But you
there's a
can't
role for
discount.
everybody.
You
Yeah.
can't
You
discount
can't
anybody's
discount it.
role. You
No,
can't discount it, man.
no, no. But know that everybody, for the
Got a
grand
role.
scheme, the greater scheme, everybody has a role. And then sometimes you'll be amazed at how many people are frustrated because they can't identify their role.
They don't know their role.
They don't know the role.
Or they don't want their role. They
Yeah,
don't
and
value it.
it's a whole nother. Listen, my brother, as always, we talk, and everybody, this is just how we do. We talk, we have conversations. It's about being relatable, but it's about still. The 5th project from Courtney Wilson. Get it, stream it, download it, get it today. Don't wait. You're gonna love it. From Still, I tell you, the Inner City Blues. I tell them, I say, I wish we could just add that as a song, because it's like, I love that. I love the version of it, man.
Y'all the boss.
Yeah, well, it's one greater than me. It's one greater than me. Listen, bro, I love you, man.
Love you too, man. Thank you for taking the time with me today. It means a lot. I appreciate it.
Blessing. Be sure to follow Brian. Give him your Instagram handle.
Oh, it's Courtney Wilson.
Yeah.
And we're on Facebook, Courtney Wilson. In fact, can I talk about the little thing we do on Thursdays on Facebook? Mm-hmm. It's called Breathe Again. I've been doing like this. It's like a conversation series. I got people coming on. This week, Todd Delaney is actually on the show.
Yeah, my man.
About his journey. Bun B has been on the show. We've had some great guests just talking about what they're doing to take that next breath and breathe for the future that they want to see. And you can go to my Facebook page, Courtney Wilson, and check it out.
Love it, man. As always.
Thursdays.
Yes, sir. I'm with it. Faith and Fame with AV. Follow me, y'all. This has been an exciting time. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us today in your local Houston BMW Center Studios. Be blessed, everybody. Brian, thank you, man.
Thank you, man. Y'all be easy.
I love it, man. Appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you, man. You got me in the thick of it. I probably try to get too deep with the drink.